I don't know where my co-host went. This is really weird. Like, I'm really, really lonely. Someone hit me up. It's those kind of hours, you know what I'm talking about? What the Well, you're just stuck with me today, aren't you? Well, hopefully that's not too bad. I'm just going to hit the intro right away. Welcome back to the Biscuit Basket. I'm Sean. Oh yeah, he's not here. Well, he is here. He's over there. Karan is behind the camera today. He is really not feeling great. His voice is absolutely shot. So
it's dead.
It's dead. So you're stuck with me today. Just me today. You're typically stuck with me and him, which I guess, oh man, I guess they technically are, huh? Dang. Okay. Interesting. Well, regardless of all that, it's been a crazy little bit here in the NHL. And I say here in the NHL because, yes, I am an NHL exec. Cut that out. It's been a crazy, crazy last little bit in the NHL, specifically in Vancouver, where it looks like trade talks are really ramping up. I'm recording this on Thursday. So the Canucks do, of course, in typical TBB fashion, they have a game tonight. But 2 nights ago, they played the LA Kings. Before we get to that, I'm going to talk to you directly here. And I'm talking to you. You, the person who is so scared about Elias Pettersson not re-upping in Vancouver. How does it feel to be wrong all the time? Does it get exhausting? Does it get tiring? Are you relaxed right now? You feel good? Okay. For those who missed it, Karan and I were right, because of course we were. Of course we were. We had nothing to worry about. Elias Pettersson remains a Canuck for the next 8 years after this, meaning his contract expires when he's 34 years old. There is a very good chance that this guy is a Canuck for life. Not only that, many people assumed. I was stunned to hear that an 8-year deal. Were you stunned? Give me a nod. Yes, when an 8-year deal was apparently the most likely scenario. Frank Cervalli tweeted that out probably about a week or a few days before the trade actually broke. And I remember thinking to myself, an 8-year deal, that would be insane. Like, that'd be incredible. It would probably be over 12. And then the AAV came out and it was 11.6 million per year. So essentially, the Canucks signed their top player pretty consistently over the last few years, their top guy, for a deal that is team friendly for the next 8 years. Karan, what are your thoughts on Pettersson? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on this contract. Yeah. This gets not only one thumbs up from me, it gets about a billion thumbs. It gets 11.6 million thumbs ups from me. Quickly, just want to analyze this before we get into all the crazy stuff happening in the NHL. Like I said, this is a really team-friendly deal. Elias Pettersson is, my original prediction when I heard it was 8 years, I said 12.3. You can actually go on Twitter and look at that. That's on record. 11.6 for what Elias Pettersson, who he is as a player. That's more than fair value. That's like I said, it's team-friendly. This is a guy who has a 100-point pedigree. This is a guy who has pedigree as a legitimate two-way force in the league, although this year his defensive numbers aren't quite as good. But when you're playing with Ilya Mikheyev for most of the year, I think you get a bit of a pass. This is an awesome deal. This is best case scenario, pretty much damn near best case scenario for Vancouver for the next 8 years. They have their top guy at under 12 million per year. You just really don't see that much. I was fully expecting a 5-year deal a la Austin Matthews when he signed a 5-year, $13.5 million deal. I was expecting something like that, and I would have totally been fine with that. But what we have instead is this team's best player, their most important player, maybe besides Quinn Hughes this year, locked up for a long time. Just enjoy it. And don't worry that he's going through a little bit of a rough stretch, because good players do go through this. He's going to break out of it. This guy is going to be the best Canuck when it's all said and done. All time. Best Canuck player of all time. I don't know. That's all I really have to say about it. It is such a win for the organization. And it's also old news, so I don't want to get too into it. Now, on Tuesday, The Canucks went to crypto.com arena, not the Staples Center anymore for whatever reason. We have to make sure we get crypto into everything these days because it's definitely not a sham. This was obviously a huge matchup going in. If you watched the previous matchup between these two teams, Vancouver got absolutely slaughtered, 5-1. The only goal scored that game was Brock Besser, 35th of the year, and it was on the power play. Kind of got that team off the power play schneid a little bit. There's the parasocial thing again. I cannot stop doing it. So weird. So weird. It's only on camera. But going into this game, obviously, the Kings are a tough matchup. They play that awful 1-3-1 trap style hockey that everyone absolutely loves, including myself. And by loves, I mean I wish that team was shot into a freaking cannon and sent to the moon because, my God, it is the most boring style of hockey I've ever seen in my life. God. But regardless, the Kings did score the first goal of the game. And then after that, it was basically all Canucks. I know some people don't look at underlying numbers all that much, but what I can tell you is this. If you don't look at them, let me just say, this game was essentially all Canucks. The Kings generated only a few chances. Turcotte had that 1 2-on-1 chance where he was absolutely just, I mean, he was stonewalled. Like, that was an incredible save by Demko with the glove. Vintage Demko. And the Canucks ended up winning the game on the back of pretty much their best players coming up huge. Elias Pettersson finally gets his first, 2 games after he signs, gets his first point since signing that massive 8-year deal, and it was just an absolute game-breaking moment. Cut inside, wide open net after a great setup by Nils Höglander and Quinn Hughes. And then in overtime, because the game went to overtime, Kevin Fiala, the Canuck killer that he is, ends up helping the team, gets a penalty, delayed call. Canucks are just working the 4-on-3 before the penalty's even called, before the whistle is even blown. JT Miller, rocket of a shot, finds its way through Cam Talbot. And that's the game. Canucks win 2-1. We all go home happy. And now they play the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. And I just quickly want to preview this before we get into some trade talk because there's a lot of that right now in the NHL. So Vegas, speaking of trades, obviously they got Anthony Mantha and Noah Hannafin in separate deals, obviously. And I believe Anthony Mantha will play tonight for Vegas. I'm not certain of that. I'm very doubtful that Noah Hannafin plays. He just got traded yesterday at the time that we're recording this. So there's probably some paperwork that he has to sort out before he can even play or even travel. So don't expect to see Noah Hannafin. Anthony Mantha, really good player, really underrated player. I expect him to have a big impact on the game tonight. As for the Canucks, hopefully we see something out of Elias Lindholm. If not, he could be sent out the door, although it looks likely that that won't happen if the Canucks were to trade for Jake Gensel, for example. Lindholm may have to be a piece that they move, maybe flip to the Boston Bruins. That's a potential rumor. The New York Rangers are apparently very interested in the player. We'll see. We'll have to see what happens. There's a ton of rumors floating around, but really want to see some stuff, some better hockey from Lindholm. I don't know where he's slotting in tonight. Nils Höglander has been absolutely fantastic playing in a top line role with Elias Pettersson. We hope to see that continue. His underlying numbers have actually spiked. He's still scoring. His defensive numbers have been really good. Let's hope that continues. And obviously, just let's hope the Canucks can defeat a team that they might end up facing in round 1. Vegas has really been slipping, and that's why they really, I think, are trying to push all their chips, and they want to make sure that they're in a real good spot, potentially getting home ice advantage, although very unlikely. They're currently in the first wildcard spot in the Western Conference, but the Pacific is a pretty tight race besides Vancouver pretty much sitting alone at the top. Edmonton slowly creeping up. They could land first in the division, although it's pretty unlikely at this point. I think Vancouver basically has that on lock unless they go on a bit of a schneid. They have a 9-game homestand coming up in March, so I really don't see that happening, but we'll see. All right. I think it's time for trade talk. What do you think? All right. He's giving me the nod. So what I wanted to do is, because there's obviously a ton of guys who are rumored to be coming to Vancouver, I just want to kind of cover all of them in case a trade does break after this episode. Maybe it happens during this episode. We are fully prepared for that, by the way, and I will try to break it down if it happens. Very unlikely. But I just kind of want to highlight some of the potential targets for the Canucks going in, and most of them are wingers because the Canucks kind of do need some forward help. Let's start big. Let's start with the guy that everyone's really talking about, and that's Jake Guentzel from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, what would the Canucks be getting in a player like Jake Guentzel? This guy is a genius level chance creator at 5-on-5. He is one of the most efficient offensive drivers, basically in the league, just in its entirety, not just on the Penguins. Would be a perfect fit, in my opinion, alongside of JT Miller, because if you put him with Miller and Besser, that could be a really good line because Guentzel is a proven chance creator. The other two, noted shooters. That could be a fit. On the flip side of that, though, Guentzel is more of a shooter. He likes to create chances for himself, so we'll see if that could fit. If not, I really wonder about him being a fit with Elias Pettersson and potentially Elias Lindholm as well. Lindholm could really benefit from a guy who drives play on his line, and if he's put with Pettersson and Guentzel, I feel like that's a pretty good spot to succeed. But also, contrary to that, Nils Höglander's been fantastic alongside of Elias Pettersson, so I don't really want to see that split up. Guentzel would be probably the best possible add for this team in terms of what they need. There are cheaper options. That are, could provide just as good, if not even honestly better value for what you would pay to acquire them. But if the Canucks do opt to, let's say, flip Lindholm to the Boston Bruins, recoup some assets, and then maybe flip a Podkolzin or a Ratu and another pick along with those assets for Guentzel, yeah, I'd be totally down for that because Guentzel is that good, and he's also a playoff warrior. If you haven't seen his 2017 playoff highlights or even his 2018 playoff highlights, highly recommend. I believe he also had 7 goals in 7 games against the New York Rangers in 2022 when they fell in the first round. This guy is a proven winner. He's a proven play driver, and he's a proven playoff beast. A+ pickup if the Canucks were to do it. Let's hope that they don't absolutely sell the farm in order to do so. Now we're going to get to the guy that I think a lot of Canucks fans really want just to see a reunion tour from this guy, and that's Tyler Toffoli from the New Jersey Devils. Now, Toffoli is not near the caliber of player, in my opinion at least, that Jake Guentzel is. I think Guentzel is arguably a top 10 winger in the sport. He is, like I said, a proven play driver. Toffoli drives play. He's a good chance creator, but he does it in a different way. He's not nearly as quick. In fact, he's one of the slowest skaters in the entire league, much like someone like Brock Besser, for example. But the thing about Toffoli, he doesn't quite have the shot that Besser has or the finishing touch that Besser has, but he's a proven finisher. Like, he can score 20, 30 goals basically in his sleep every single year and also provide play driving value. So if you wanted a bumper guy, if the Canucks want a bumper guy or even a solid net front guy, Tyler Toffoli would be a great fit. Also has chemistry with both Pettersson and Lindholm in their short stints that they've played together. I mean, it would be a home run. Again, cheaper option than Guentzel. So I would assume if I'm making a mock trade, I wonder if one of Podkolzin or Ratu and maybe the Canucks 2025 second round pick would be enough to get it done. Maybe it would be more. I wonder if the Devils would like a first round pick in return for Toffoli. Honestly, I wouldn't blame them. But if it's a first round pick, I would maybe back away from it a little bit. Regardless, Toffoli would be a fantastic add. But there's another guy of a similar vein that I think could be a better, cheaper option, and that is Jordan Eberle from the Seattle Kraken. Eberle seems to be one of the main Canuck killers. Every time the Canucks play the Kraken, it's always brought up that this guy's numbers against the Canucks are absolutely staggering, and they are. They absolutely are. But the thing about Eberle is, while he is 33 and while he makes $5.5 million per year, and he's on the last year of his deal, if you can get him at half retained, also depends on if the Kraken do want to extend him or not. This guy is one of the most quietly effective play drivers in the entire NHL. He's put up very good play driving metrics for multiple years. Basically, since he was with the Islanders, he's been incredible. Also, really underrated playoff performer. He had that one playoff run with the Oilers where I think he had like 0 points in 17 games or something like that. Did he have 0?
I think so. You're wrong.
We'll pop it up on the screen right now if he did or didn't. And then after that, when he got traded to the Islanders, instantly became a playoff monster. He did the same for the Seattle Kraken last year. He scored some huge goals. I remember he scored an overtime winner in round 1 against the Colorado Avalanche, and that helped them win the series. And yeah, like if you listen, you want to get guys who are good in the playoffs, Jordan Eberle and Jake Gensel, those are your main two. Tyler Toffoli would be a great help regardless. But Eberle, I think I like more if the price is cheaper. You'd have to get a lot of salary retention of it. You'd probably have to get 75% retained if we're being totally real. But again, in a mock trade, I wonder if Ratu in a second or Podkolzin in a second would be able to get it done. Maybe even less than a second round pick. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know how Ron Francis, is when it comes to trades. I know he's a very stingy GM, so we'll have to wait and see if he wants to extend or trade Eberle. Otherwise, regardless, fantastic option. There's one more really good player that we haven't touched on yet, who he's probably the best player available. Let me tell you a little bit about a Russian winger by the name of Andrei Kuzmenko.
What?
Pavel Buchnevich plays for the St. Louis Blues, and, well, if you watch the St. Louis Blues, he's probably their best player not named Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas is obviously having an incredible playmaking season right now, as Robert Thomas typically does. Buchnevich, on the other hand, had a really slow start to the year. I don't remember the exact stats, but I have him in fantasy. He was not doing too hot, but I held on to him, and guess what? Now he's scoring goals. He's going to hit 30 goals because he's a pretty consistent 30 goal, like 70, 80 point guy now. He's a terrific player. Here's the thing. The Blues are apparently willing to retain half of Buchnevich's salary, which he makes $5.8 million for this year and next year. So he's got 1 year left on his deal after this year. That's valuable. If the Blues opted to retain 50%, the price for him went from astronomical to pretty much unfathomable. I don't see the Canucks making this move, but if they were to go big game hunting for anyone, he should be number 1 on the list. Absolutely. I just don't think it's going to happen. I would expect to see one of Gensel or Toffoli be traded to the Vancouver Canucks. Jason Zucker's another name that's been thrown around. I think that's like a last minute, we couldn't get these guys, we'll settle for him kind of move. I think it's going to be Gensel or Toffoli. We'll have to wait and see. I will take either of them. Both are fantastic players. Let's hope that they can get it done. This team needs at least one more top 6 forward. And because I do think Nils Höglander is a top 6 forward, I think he's one of this team's 6 best forwards. So we can put that argument to bed. We don't need to put him on the 4th line anymore. Screw the hog plan. Screw the asset management. We're trying to win a cup here. Leave this guy with Pettersson. Leave him with Pettersson. Quickly, just 2 other names I would like to very briefly go over. Jason Zucker, like I mentioned, again, last minute deal. I doubt that the Canucks will end up getting him. I think they're going to try and get a bigger name. Another 2 more guys. Frank Vetrano from the Anaheim Ducks. The thing about him is he really is a pure shooter, like pure volume shooter. Don't expect this guy to drive high danger chances. Don't expect this guy to play defense. Surprisingly solid penalty killer, however. Like that's where I think there is value with him. I'm not sure that's what this team needs. I think they need a proven play driver more so than another finisher. Also, one more player, and this isn't a forward. Keep an eye out for Alexander Carrier from the New Jersey Devils, the Nashville Predators. If he becomes available, he's a mobile 2-way puck moving defenseman, Nashville Predators. He's under 6 foot, so he's not a very big defenseman. But if they were looking for a cheap top 4 right-handed guy, which they kind of need as well, I wouldn't say need, but it could be a good ad. Alexander Carrier from Nashville, that's another guy I'd keep an eye on. But again, 2 main guys, Toffoli, Gensel. I would expect one of them to be a Canuck by Friday's deadline. We'll have to wait and see. This might age well. This might age like milk. We'll have to just wait and see what happens on Friday. So yeah, that I think about does it for the show today. We getting the nod? All right. Sorry, so quickly just want to say this is the last episode of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Karin and I will probably have other projects in the future, including dual articles potentially on evolution. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in as always. And yeah,
Yeah. My voice is dead.
take care.
Okay.